Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story, entitled Mom Tries to Derail Medevac Mission. So about 10 years ago, I was a corpsman in the US Navy, medical personnel for the Navy and Marine Corps, stationed overseas in a tropical paradise. At the time, I was the second most senior enlisted sailor in our department at a small, forward-deployed hospital. Part of my duties included being ready to medevac psych patients at a moment's notice. So I always had a medevac mission bag in my barracks room ready to go. Some details have been deliberately changed to protect the anonymity of my patient. Anyways, one day while I was on liberty, not on duty, I got one of those you leave in 2 hours phone calls, so off to the hospital I went. My trusty bag on my back. It was there that I was told how weird this medevac was to be. I was flying commercially to the US with my patient and their mother, instead of hopping on an Air Force flight. Oh, by the way, the mother just happens to be an entitled junior officer. Great! I get all my paperwork together, gather my party, patient and mother, and grab a duty driver to take us to the local civilian airport. Oh, and while we are all dressed in civilian attire, it is important to note that I am 100% on duty and acting officially in my capacity as a non-commissioned officer in the US Navy Hospital Corps. The mother, however, is 100% not on duty or acting in an official capacity. This becomes very important later. On the way there, the kid is really sweet, but is clearly recovering from a first psychotic break and has a lifetime of therapy, medication and hospitalization ahead. This kid has my sympathy, and besides, this kid is my patient. The mother, on the other hand, is clearly self-absorbed and is on her electronic devices or nagging the duty driver, who I know and is an excellent defensive driver, or is just in general complaining about anything she can. Whatever, I can tune her out and do my job. It wouldn't be the first or last time in my career I had to ignore a petulant junior officer and just get my job done. The trouble started almost immediately after checking in at the airport. She turned to me, cleared her throat, and in a tone that suggested that she was in charge said, "You need to get my bag." Without hesitation, I replied, "No, ma'am. Our flight leaves in 20 minutes. We're going to the gate now." With that, I turned and began to escort my patient to the security screening area. She stammers out some kind of "excuse me" protest, but I did not quite catch it because I genuinely did not give a damn. My mission was getting my sick patient to a higher level of care, not playing enlisted butler to an entitled officer. It seemed to get her to back off because we got to our layover destination without incident. We board our international flight and the kid wants the window seat and the mother wants to sit beside the kid. Fine. I sit behind them and we take off. The flight is going smoothly. I give the kid their medication after the in-flight meal and the kid and the mother settle in for a movie. It was when the stewardess was handing out booze that things started to really go sideways. The mother tried to give her very sick kid who is on a typical antipsychotic medication a Jack and Coke. Without hesitation, I reached forward between the seats and snatched that stuff up. She turned to glare at me and chew me out, but I didn't even give her a chance. I cut her off with my super serious officer tone and glare. I am not ashamed to admit that I practiced it before my first deployment. And I stated flatly, "Ma'am, not only is my patient underage, but they are very sick and are on some pretty serious medication. If there are two things that just plain do not mix, it is alcohol and psychotropic medication. Respectfully, ma'am, I simply will not allow this. I appreciate your compliance. And her face twists in rage and confusion. I could tell that she had never been spoken to like this by a lowly enlisted person, and she was trying to figure out what to say to me. Finally, she said, "I didn't want to have to pull rank, but..." Again, I immediately cut her off. "Ma'am, this is my mission. It was explained to you that you are not in charge here, and the skipper is allowing you to tag along as a humane jester. I am calling the shots here. This is your kid. You want the best for my patient. I get it, but the best thing you can do right now is let me do my job and get him to the next treatment facility without incident. Our commanding officer placed me in charge, and if my patient shows up to the next facility having drank alcohol, it will be my head on the chopping block. Not to mention that you are putting my patient at risk. Your child could have a genuine medical emergency tens of thousands of feet in the air over the open ocean. So ma'am, if you pull something like this again, I will report it. Thank you for your compliance, ma'am." You see, Reddit? In the US military, positional authority is way important than your actual rank. This is why an E2 can and will prevent a 3-star general from entering a secure facility without the proper credentials. It doesn't matter that this 3-star is like a god to this E2 because not even a 3-star gets to access this facility without a proper military identification card. Sir, this means that since the patient was released to my custody, and since the chain of command placed me in charge of this mission, my positional authority simply trumped her rank and even her status as the kid's parent, and I had the paperwork to prove it to any authority. Back to the flight. So after being told that she wasn't in charge, she scowls at me and tells me that when we land, she is going to call the cops or something like that. I don't really care as I lean back and begin documenting the interaction for my own personal CYA. Anyway, we landed and there weren't any cops called or anything like that, so whatever she said was an empty threat. We are about to go through US customs when she insists that she go through customs first, then her kid, then me. The Jack and Coke incident is still fresh on my mind. I'm convinced she is going to try to pull some shady nonsense, so I shut her down. I informed her that in order to maintain her kid's security and health, I had to go first, followed by her kid, then her. She protests, and the protests start to get us stared at. Somehow we made it through customs without her or the kid taking flight, or without any of us getting detained. Y'all, she whined and complained loudly the entire wait. I was seriously getting concerned that we were going to get detained. Alright, nightmare is almost over. We get through the customs and we head to get the rental car. All I have to do is get the patient to the next medical facility, give a report, turn over effects, and I'm done. I get in the car, load everyone up, and then the mother exclaims, "I left my purse." She begins half flailing and freaking out and jumps out of the car. She tells me that I am to wait until she returns. Now, I'm not some kind of special forces ninja or some nonsense, but I have been deployed and I have seen real people get seriously hurt and had to treat those injuries. I've been in real danger and I would eventually develop PTSD from these experiences. It was then and there that I decided playtime with this delusional officer was over. I turn and look at her through the open car door, and this time, I do not mask my frustration with this woman. "Ma'am, I have been on duty and awake for nearly 21 hours. We have a 45-minute drive ahead of us. Then I have to give a report and turn over medications, medical records, and personal effects. I have at least 2 more hours of work ahead of me before I can get some sleep and fly back tonight. Ma'am, there is no way you are holding this up any more than you already have. This vehicle will leave in 10 minutes with or without you." She stammers out that she will call the police on me for kidnapping her kid. I tell her to go right ahead, but that won't change that she now has 9 minutes and 45 seconds to get her purse. At this point, even the kid chimes in with, "Mom, stop trying to control everything. This guy has taken great care of me, and I'm really tired. Can't we just hurry up?" With that, she storms off and miraculously makes it back with her purse in time. I take them to the hospital with her silently fuming and furiously tapping away at her phone non-stop. Turnover gets done. I bid the kid goodbye and the mother ignores me as I leave. Sweet, sweet sleep. Oh, it's not over. Fast forward a week and I found out that the mother has filed a formal complaint against me. To avoid another long story, I'll tell you that the executive officer shredded it and chewed her out once I explained everything that had happened and backed it up with official documentation. I don't know what happened to her or the kid, but I never saw either of them again. Next story. Never judge a book. I just joined the Reddit family and this is my first post. I'm old, like in my 70s old. But my wife said that some of my stories might be entertaining. This is something I witnessed about 10 years ago. I was shopping at a store with a big bullseye logo. I noticed this old lady, looked to be in her late 60s, who was just going about her business. I noticed because she held herself very upright and with a lot of confidence. Though she was only about 5 feet tall and 100 pounds, she was an ounce. She had on a nice red blouse and tan pants, which turned out to be a bad fashion choice for this tour, as you will see. As I passed by, we nodded to each other and I started making my way to the luggage and bags to look for a new backpack for myself. After about a couple of minutes of looking, I heard raised voices and glanced over my shoulder to see the old woman in a heated exchange with a middle-aged man twice her size. He was talking very loud and calling her awful names, the B word and worse, and telling her that just because she was old didn't mean that she could ignore customers. She was, I imagine, trying to explain that she did not work there, but couldn't get a word in edgewise since the big bully was refusing to let her talk. I started to walk over there to see if I could help, but soon saw that my help was not needed. The big bully actually had the gal to grab her by her shoulder and give her a shake. I will never forget what happened next. The old lady grabbed his wrist, twisted it behind him in some kind of martial arts move, kicked him behind his knee, which made him collapse onto his knees. She then had his arm behind his back with his hand in what looked like a very painful position that apparently he couldn't escape from. By then, I was close enough that I heard her softly tell him, "Look, I said I don't work here, and I will break your freaking arm if you try to touch me again. Now do you understand?" He started to struggle but gave up when she elevated his pinned arm a little, and he cried out in pain. She said, "I asked you if you understand." He nodded his head and she said, "Now are you going to be a good boy and leave me alone?" He nodded again and she released him. He knelt there on the floor for a minute, propping his wrist and looking like any full-grown man would look if they just had been beaten up by a little old lady. Contrite and embarrassed, he simply walked away and continued shopping. He finally got up and quickly walked out of the store. I caught up to her and asked her if she was alright, as if. She smiled sweetly and said, "I just can't stand bullies." We talked for a minute and she told me that she took self-defense classes at a nearby senior center and she learned to take care of herself a long time ago and refuses to be bullied. Like the title says, you can't judge a book by its cover. So do not mess with harmless-looking little old ladies. They might just beat you up. Next story. Cheat on me and I'll report you to the cops. So this story is about my ex. We were dating in 2018-2019 for almost 1 year. And I had a bit of a busy year due to me being in my final year of med school. And I couldn't give him much time. After 6 months, he started acting super strange, got extremely aggressive and was very weird. I tried talking to him multiple times, but the only reason he gave was because I wasn't giving him time. 6 months went this way, more or less fighting and making up. After almost a year, I found out through Instagram that he was cheating on me. I contacted the other girl and she confirmed that they were dating for 6 months, and she was shocked that he was cheating on her as well. When she confronted him, he said absolutely vile things about me, that I was forcing him to be with me and stalking him, and called me many names. So I sent her all our recent chats and pictures, and the one anniversary gift that he sent me. He got dumped pretty fast by both of us. Later he kept calling and texting me, blaming me for spoiling his relationship and causing his mistress pain. Then he said something that was honestly the most painful thing. Me being a doctor, his mother always consulted me, usually for a second opinion. He introduced me as a friend and always used to say that he wasn't ready to tell her that I am his girlfriend. But he had introduced that new girl with whom he cheated on me as his girlfriend, which pissed me to the next level. I made a petty revenge plan. He worked in his family business, which was led by his mother. So first I called his mother and told her everything, and I also mentioned that he was a big pothead and probably smoked 5 to 6 joints per day. She gave him hell and fired him then and there. So he called me and started giving me hell. So I told him if he kept calling me more, I will call the cops and inform them that he is illegally growing marijuana. It was just a threat for him to leave me alone. But by some coincidence, the next day cops actually showed up to his place for some other legal work and to meet his mother. It was higher than a kite and was panicking so hard that he just went to a cop and confessed that he's smoking weeds and growing one weed plant. Everyone was shocked. I'm from the place where all marijuana is still illegal. Due to his family have connections, he was only slapped with a bit of fines and no report was filed. But his mother kicked him out of their family home. His mother called me later to apologize and mention all this to me. She was genuinely so pissed off with him. We are still in contact and she is the nicest lady. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.